Sam Wilson, my captain, my captain. Captain America Brave New World has been on the forefront of my mind for a while. It is the first Captain America film post Endgame, and the first one where we have a new man taking on the mantle of Captain America. To give you a brief synopsis, Captain America Brave New World follows Sam Wilson as he officially enters his first kind of quote-unquote term as Captain America, as he begins a relationship with a former foe, the now president Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, as they try to navigate this brave new world they live in post-blip, post-celestial occurrence, as well as a world where there are no Avengers. And what I think is so fun about this film is that we get to kind of get a new take on Cap, because we have a new Cap. Sam Wilson, this film remembers that we were introduced to him as a veteran affairs counselor and therapist for veterans who were struggling with a variety of different mental health issues and or just trying to find a way to discuss their time in the service. And I think this film does a really good job of kind of placing the people around Sam all in relation to the military. And I think it kind of goes into the genre of this film a little bit more too. While the marketing of this film has kind of tried to pitch it as a spiritual successor to Captain America the Winter Soldier, Brave New World functions much more as like a military action film than as a political intrigue espionage thriller that Winter Soldier is. And I think that's partially because we aren't dealing with something as sinister as a Hydra undercover in the government in this film. We need to kind of build up this world of Captain America's allies around Sam Wilson as Captain America. And I think the interesting part of this film is it kind of connects MCU past and MCU present in a way that felt like a gold star to anyone who has been around since the beginning, who has stuck around, who has watched every project come around for every new box office opening, logged into Disney Plus every time a new show landed, because you kind of get to see some of these familiar faces again. Although, unfortunately, William Hurt has since passed, we see Harrison Ford reprising his role of Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who has been sprinkled throughout the MCU before and feels like kind of like a real connecting line. Even the way they write his character in this film feels connected to who he was in the past, although they're clearly trying to, they have some fun jokes at how they handle the recasting as well as kind of the character's quote unquote changes. We also have Joaquin Torres, who we saw Danny Ramirez play in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. So he gets to return. So does Isaiah Bradley. So I think what's really cool here is this film has very much legitimized the Disney Plus shows. It has very much legitimized a couple of their movies that have had really loose ends throughout the MCU. Eternals, I'm looking at you. Do I need to do an Eternals rewatch? Don't make me. I don't want to talk about it right now. And then we've also got, of course, some ties to like early phase 1. We've got Thaddeus Ross. Thaddeus Ross also has this connection with Sam from Civil War, from a previous Captain America film, and a connection to kind of Black Widow. So there's a real interesting dynamic at play when you say, okay, well, these characters do know each other. They have interacted before. Let's kind of force a interaction here. And that's kind of what this movie feels like. Although that sounds like it's in overly simplistic terms, right? I was genuinely entertained by this film. And even though I am saying like it's not an espionage thriller, maybe in the way that some of the marketing has tried to explain it to be, and or it's not necessarily gonna like replace The Winter Soldier as your favorite Cap movie, it does though function very efficiently in terms of saying, okay, we have a man who is very recently in the military. He is dedicated to doing what is right, not by just his country, but by the world, and by really showcasing the value system that America is supposed to represent. And in this film, Sam really functions kind of as that guiding light of there are terrorists who are far worse. There are politicians who can kind of be in the gray area. There are citizens and friends of his who he thinks have been, wronged in the past, like Isaiah Bradley, who he wants to stand behind. But what happens when those allegiances are put in conflict with one another? What happens when the only people you can trust are these terrorist organizations that you need to work with to gain access to information? It's all very, very, very interesting and all plays off of this world that the MCU has set up because, unfortunately, at this point in time, Sam hasn't served, quote unquote, as Captain America for long enough to have a direct enemy. Like he doesn't have a Bucky who's been lost to time. He doesn't have even a love interest, which I kind of thought he was going to get in this film. And I don't know if they're teasing something out, but you'll have to see the film and let me know your thoughts on that. We don't have anyone that he could have necessarily wronged, because the only thing to me that would have made sense to play as a villain in this would have been someone that he like maybe wasn't able to help, or somebody he left behind. But I feel like you can't really do that without tarnishing this image of Sam. And there's already so much character work in Sam as one of the longest standing characters in the MCU to this point, who's still an active member. So I think they did a really smart choice by deciding to take other MCU plot lines that have been laid out that would have large-reaching repercussions, and also brought back characters like Thaddeus Ross, who were very important to the MCU and or are the stand-in for the government. I think it's really, really cool to not just play this up as a cameo here and there, but actually make it a really serious part of the story. And again, not just in like a team-up film kind of way, but say, okay, our plot is going to take information from these films directly. And it feels like the first time in a long time where I can really point to films that you will have wanted to watch before this one to really understand this film's not being created in a vacuum, but it's creating something that's a really cool summation of different areas and pockets of the MCU that have yet to be addressed. So that was really exciting for me, and that's why I think it felt like such a reward. The Easter egg basket was filled in this film in so many more ways than I can really talk about without spoiling it, and I don't want to since the film is not out at this point. I was genuinely entertained too. That's the main thing I want to focus on. It wasn't just because this film felt like it was connecting to the MCU, and in some projects, even though I will stand by a lot of the MCU, in fact, I have a video I'm working on talking about how the MCU doesn't need to be saved, or you need to stop saying that it's back, because like I think everybody just has different opinions about what they like in the MCU now, which is fine. But this film felt really like a true, you're not waiting to see how it connects to something else. You're not waiting or interested in watching it because, this person might make a cameo or there's theories about this. It really felt truly like a film that was structured to be a Captain America film, to bring in other important elements and kind of return to a much more interconnected MCU without just relying on cameos to do that, which again, I usually love a good cameo, so I'm not going to be hypercritical about that, but I have seen other people make solid points to just say like sometimes it just feels like we're waiting to see who's going to show up, what twist is going to happen. In this film, yes, at times it felt like maybe we were taking a more simplistic or easy route from plot point A to plot point B. However, I think it did its job in being, like I said, a military action driven film, in terms of how this man who is supposed to represent so much more can end up feeling like a cog in a machine of this larger government, larger superhero filled universe, galaxy, multiverse. And where does somebody like Captain America fit in the multiverse? Where does he fit in when you have celestials coming out of the Earth's crust? Where does he fit in when there are villains who despise him or what he stands for based on absolutely nothing he's done, but basically just the people he's been surrounded with who have possibly disappeared? So I think it was a really interesting way to form a new Cap, a new look at what this could be, because Chris Evans' Captain America fell so much as he went on and became a man out of time and had these complicated allegiances and wasn't just this like poster boy for American propaganda in World War II. His became a little bit darker, a little bit off the grid. And it's not that Sam Wilson doesn't do some of that stuff in this film, but I think they really didn't just try to say like, oh, like let's just force a situation to make something feel like the Winter Soldier. I also feel like there's a good mystery at play for a good portion of this film that you're trying to kind of uncover, and depending on how much of the MCU you've watched, depending on how many details you remember or how much you're paying attention to context clues, you may be able to pick up on a little bit earlier than others. But for me, that didn't make it any less exciting. That made it honestly more exciting because I was like, no way they're doing this. This is so cool. I think this film just delivered everywhere it needed to. I think for a early quarter in the year Marvel film, expectations are usually low for a lot of people. And for films like Quantumania, some people have walked away very unsatisfied with the movies that come out during this time or feel like they're kind of being forced or where Marvel kind of dumps the projects they're not as excited about. For me, this film's release schedule makes so much sense. It's February, you're opening on President's Day weekend, which is so cool because Thaddeus Ross is becoming the president in this film. Then you've also got Black History Month, and additionally, February means that this film can be on Disney Plus by like Memorial Day or July 4th in terms of their kind of release scheduling, which is really exciting and really cool. So I love the rollout of this film. I love the placement of this in time. And I'm also just really excited about the fact that I think there may be some theories that you walk away from this film with for the upcoming MCU slate, and that's where I'll leave that. But if I talk about this in spoilers more, I'll definitely give you guys those theories because I certainly have them after this one, and I'm very, very excited to talk more Marvel things as the year goes on. But yes, I enjoyed this. You should go watch it, especially if you're like me and you love to see little loose ends, maybe not tied in a perfect little bow, but re-explored and maybe retangled in a way. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day or night. Please subscribe if you want more Marvel content, more review content, more award season coverage. All of those things are happening right now on the channel, and I will see you guys in my very next video. Bye, y'all.